The cold was the first thing I noticed. Not the breathtaking mountains that curved like ancient stone giants around me. Not the silence that swallowed even the wind. Just the cold. It wasn't the kind that stung. It was deeper, heavier. The kind that sinks into your bones and whispers that you might not make it through the night. My name is Leah Hartman. I'm a school counselor from Oregon, a weekend hiker at best. But this trip wasn't just another hike. It was supposed to be a reset. A way to stop waking up at 3 a.m. with my chest so tight I couldn't breathe. After Mom passed last spring, something in me cracked. I thought if I could lose myself in the wild, really disappear into it, I might find the pieces again. So I booked a solo backpacking trek through Denali National Park. 5 days off-grid. No phone, no chatter. Just sky, earth, and whatever ghosts I was still carrying. The first 2 days were magic. Sunlight filtered through the trees like something sacred. I watched a moose and her calf wade through a misty river. I felt small in the best possible way. But on the third day, everything went wrong. The snow came early. Too early. A rogue September storm dropped from the mountains like a curtain. 1 minute, I was following a ridgeline trail. The next, whiteout. Visibility dropped to nothing. My map turned to mush in my glove. I should have stayed put. I know that now. But fear makes fools out of all of us. I tried to find the trail again, wandered, slipped. I remember the snap in my ankle, the dull thud of my head hitting rock, and then blackness. When I woke up, it was night. The stars were out, millions of them. So bright they hurt my eyes, and the cold had teeth. Now I was wedged in a shallow ravine, half buried in snow. My backpack was gone. So was my food. My water. My emergency flare. I yelled until my voice gave out. No one answered by morning. I couldn't stand. My ankle was badly swollen. My lips cracked. The silence was so loud it roared. That day passed in a blur of shivers. I remember curling into myself like a dying animal. Just waiting, not even praying. Because what's the point of praying when you don't believe anyone's listening? But as the second night fell, I heard something that didn't belong. Snow crunching. Slow, deliberate. Too heavy for a fox. Too soft for a bear. I turned my head, and there he was. At the edge of the clearing. A massive wolf. Silver gray, with piercing amber eyes. Staring at me through the swirling snow. He didn't growl, didn't bare his teeth, just stood there, watching, like he was trying to decide if I was prey or something else. Entirely, I wanted to scream, to move, but I couldn't do either. We just stared at each other, two creatures stranded in a place neither of us fully belonged. Then, he took a step closer, and everything changed. He took a step closer, and another. Every muscle in my body screamed to run, but I couldn't even stand. So I just sat there, half frozen, half delirious, waiting for the end. But the end never came. Instead, he lowered his massive head, sniffed the air, then curled into the snow, not 5 feet away from me, facing outward as if keeping watch. That night, I didn't sleep much. Between the pain and the fear, I kept blinking, half expecting him to vanish. But he stayed. His fur dusted with snow, his ears twitching at every sound in the trees. When dawn came, I could see him more clearly. He was unlike any wolf I'd ever seen, larger than I thought possible. His coat shimmered silver and ash. One of his ears was notched, scarred. His eyes, though they were human in a way that made me feel naked. When I stirred, he stood, walked a slow, wide circle around me, then padded off into the forest. And just like that, he was gone. I thought I'd imagined it. The cold does that, makes you see things that aren't real. But minutes later, he came back, mouthful of pine boughs and moss. He dropped them beside me, then nosed my leg, hard. It took me a moment to understand. He was trying to make me move, trying to keep me alive. Over the next 2 days, he came and went, bringing small bits of sustenance, a dead vole, frozen berries. Once, even the remains of a rabbit. I gagged, trying to eat it raw, but he just watched me, patient, silent. At night, he lay beside me, his body heat, my only insulation. I pressed my back to his side, felt the thud of his heartbeat, and somewhere in the dark, something inside me cracked open. Not from fear, but from awe. He should have left me feasted on me. But instead, he chose to stay. I named him Ash. It was the color of his coat, but also what I felt like burned out. Just embers, waiting to fade. On the 4th morning, I woke up and he was gone. I called for him, though my throat was too dry to make real sound. But the trees gave no answer. Only snow falling in soft, cruel silence. I waited hour after hour, the wind picking up, the ache in my body growing sharper, and still, no sign of him. By sunset, I broke. I started to believe he'd never been real, that I'd hallucinated everything. The fur, the food, the warmth. I laughed hysterically until tears froze on my cheeks. That night I gave up, truly gave up. I lay on my side, closed my eyes and let my mind drift to Mom, to our kitchen back home, her favorite song humming from the radio, warm bread in the oven, her hands on my face. I whispered goodbye into the snow. Then I heard it again. Not snow this time, not wind. Breathing slow, measure close. When I opened my eyes, Ash was there, but not alone. In his jaws was my backpack, torn, soaked, but unmistakably mine. He'd found it, dragged it through, God knows what terrain, to bring it back to me. I laughed again, but this time, not from madness, from wonder, inside the pack. My flare gun was still there, wrapped in a side pouch I'd forgotten about. I barely had the strength to hold it, but Ash sat still as stone. Watching me as I fumbled with cold fingers, I fired it into the sky. The red burst cut through the dusk like a scream. Ash didn't flinch. He just looked at me, eyes steady. And then, from somewhere in the far distance, an answer. Another flare. Red glowing through the trees. I let the gun drop and sobbed into my arms. Ash pressed his muzzle to my back. Just once, a nudge like a promise. Help was coming, but as the sound of footsteps approached, cracking branches, voices yelling my name, Ash was already turning away, back into the wild, back into the silence. The rescue team said they'd never seen anything like it. They found me on the edge of hypothermia, delirious, exhausted, but alive. And the only reason I survived was because of the wolf. I told them everything about Ash, how he guarded me, fed me, found my pack. They listened politely, smiled the way people do when they think you're still a little out of your mind, and then they moved on. I spent 6 days in a hospital bed in Fairbanks, my ankle broken, my ribs bruised, but healing. I kept asking, did anyone see him? A wolf that size? Any sightings? Every ranger, tracker, and park warden said the same thing. There are wolves in Denali. But what I described? Too big, too unafraid, too deliberate. Maybe it was a dog, one nurse offered. A hallucination, said another. But I know he was real. The fur on my coat, the rabbit claw still tucked in my pack, the marks in the snow. But more than that, I felt him. When I flew home to Oregon, I was different. Not just physically. Inside, something had shifted. I started sleeping again, deeply, peacefully. I smiled when I looked at the sky. I cried without shame. When a memory of Mom came back, I didn't push the grief down anymore, because I had already been to the edge of the world, and something wild and impossible had chosen to pull me back. I go hiking still, but not for escape now, for connection, for quiet, to remember. And every once in a while, when the wind moves just right through the pines, I stop and I listen. Because I swear, in that hush, I hear footsteps, heavy, steady, circling once, then vanishing. Ash never returned. Not really, but he left something in me. Not just survival, but a kind of knowing that sometimes, in the loneliest, most forgotten corners of the world, we are not truly alone, that something ancient and sacred still watches over the lost, that when we are ready to give up, help may arrive on 4 silent paws, not to rescue us, but to remind us that we still matter, that we're still tied to the earth and to each other in ways we'll never fully understand. And maybe that's the most beautiful part. If this story moved you, even just a little, please consider subscribing to the channel, liking this video, or sharing it with someone who needs a little light today. Because here, at FurEver Tide, we believe every story like this deserves to be told. And maybe, just maybe, you'll be the reason someone else holds on for one more night